Amber, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so happy you're here.
Hey, Kathy, I'm so excited to be here.
This is awesome. As I was just telling you before we hit record, I have so many friends who love you, and I'm just looking forward to connecting. So why don't we start before we get into all the wisdom you so generously share, and built a platform around empowering people, and you're doing such a good job of it. I want to talk about like what made you want to do that work. Like, how did you get there? Let's tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, it really goes all the way back to the very beginning. And I am a survivor of childhood sexual abuse. And so it was frankly, my earliest memory. And after that, it was just tumultuous, growing up, being a child and having to navigate trauma, also having really loving parents who were super supportive and were there to help me. But also my mom, most especially, wanted to make sure that I got justice, and that I had the opportunity to like close that loop of this trauma in my life. And so I was a 5-year-old Kathy, literally testifying in court against my abuser. And I can remember, times before even I was 5, 4, probably, I don't even know, 3 and a half. I feel like I was a child. When I look back on it now, because I'm a mother of a 6-year-old, I do not understand how any of that went down, and not even necessarily the abuse piece, but that's its own whole thing, but the court piece. So I don't even, yeah. So I, as an adult, have been able to like tease that out, becoming a parent of a small child, a girl, and getting to witness her growing up and just looking at that. I've had a lot of reference for my own journey, but what I knew at a really young age, and this is a real blessing, was that I remember receiving downloads or clear messages, and I didn't really understand where they came from, whether it was God or what, but I just remember this voice kind of saying to me, like, this didn't happen to you for nothing. And you're here to share your story. Like, you are here to rise. I had an understanding of virtues, courage, like things, and just an instant as a small person, that have served me on my journey. And so I learned quickly that hurt people, and I wasn't going to be one of those people. I learned quickly about forgiveness. I learned like all these things at an insanely young age. And I think, obviously my life took lots of twists and turns as I grew up, and I had an eating disorder, obviously, coping mechanism in my teens. All of the dots connect for me and make a lot of sense. And I had to find my voice. I had to find my courage. And I did that, through adolescence. I was a soccer player, and I ended up being a Division I athlete, and I was the captain of my women's soccer team at UNH. I had a scholarship. I just knew, like, I was expressing through my body, and I was a leader, and I used my voice. And I remember my coach used to say, when I would get tired, he would say, "We need your voice, Amber. We need your voice." And I held myself to just really high standards on my journey, because I knew that I was here for big work. And even though if I didn't understand what that meant conceptually, I just knew it in my core and my bones. And so then after I graduated from college, I started a career as a sport marketing professional for my actual alma mater, for the University of New Hampshire Athletic Department. It was the coolest job in the entire world. And I was like shooting t-shirt cannons from the ice and doing graphic designing and making posters and mentoring students. And I ended up getting to teach at the university for a few years as well. So I just had all these amazing things that I got to do, which ultimately, when I look back on it, Kathy, truly, I see how all of those skills that I was developing in that career were leading me to the work that I do now, as a coach, as a mentor, as a public speaker, as an author, as a writer, as a person who puts on live event experiences and really creates these very transformational experiences. Truly, like, you come to the Ignite Your Soul Summit, you come to Accelerate Live, you come to one of my retreats, and it's not just like we sit in a chair and we numb out for a few days taking notes. We're getting lit, like we're going in, we're crying, we're moving through things, we're like coming to the other side, we're leaving feeling like completely on fire. And so all of those things, I learned how to orchestrate fan experience. I learned how to market and sell. I learned how to get students to come out of their dorm rooms in a snowstorm on a college campus to come to a basketball game for a team that hadn't won a game in like 3 years. I learned all of these things, and it was not for naught, right? It was all leading to now. And so when I had a near-death experience during my daughter's birth, that was really the catalyst. That was the wake-up call.
This
That was
story
like,
is just like, if it wasn't already enough, the first 3
yeah.
sentences, if it wasn't powerful enough, it just like keeps going. What does
Keeps
that
going.
mean? What
Yeah.
happened during the birth?
Yeah. So I stopped breathing on the operating room table. And I went into this
Oh,
space between, you know, truly motherhood and what I was realizing might be my last breath. You know, I don't know. I was in this place of unconscious in an operating room before an emergency C-section, not breathing. And the first thing that was coming into my awareness was, you're not doing what you're here to do. Like the voice talking to me again. You're not doing it, Amber. You know what you're here for and you're not doing it. And whoa, talk about like, okay, let's be direct here.
wow.
But the beautiful part of that was I had that clarity. And then what came next was actually having the bird's eye view on my loved ones. So my parents were there in the hospital and I saw them and I saw my husband and I saw myself. And I was able to, in that moment, just really reconcile and surrender, like go to this place of super, super deep surrender and realizing that, you know, this voice, this being, this entity, whatever this is, whether it's God, the universe, higher being, I didn't know. I mean, I didn't really even have much of a spiritual practice at that time. But it's never left me and it's here. And now it's telling me that I gotta do what I'm here to do. Like enough messing around, enough waiting, enough like doing it sort of halfway, like sideways. Like, yeah, I'm making a huge impact. You know, I was going to be one of the top sport marketing professionals in the country at this point. I was in line to be the president of our organization that was for all of Division I, all athletics. And I was like doing the thing, you know, I'm like, if there was an award to be won, this girl was like first in line to win it. I was doing it. I was getting promoted every 2 years, right? I was ticking all these damn boxes, but I wasn't actually putting my energy where I knew I was now ready to put it. It was like I was like overripe on the vine and I was getting kicked off. And so I did not die by the grace of God. I am here. And my daughter was born and she was healthy and strong and vibrant and my greatest teacher, which I can't talk about her without wanting to cry every time. I know you get it. And oh man, you know, it was like life school 101 now. Like, what are you doing? What is the point? Are you going to live into it? And so it took about, 8 months or so. I knew I needed to do something different. I did not know how. So this is a very important point to make on this podcast. I did not know how, but I knew I had to figure that out. And I would not let myself off the hook on this one now. And I also had this beautiful little human here who's like a little hourglass of like, okay, what do you want to do? Because guess what? Her first steps and her first words and all of her stuff, her firsts are coming. And you're not here because you're going to this job that you now know you don't want to be in anymore. You are now like sitting at the desk and you feel like an alien because you are just operating in a different realm of like understanding. God. And you can't pretend in these meetings anymore. And you're not allowed to say what you really know. You're not allowed to say what's like true because, corporate job. And so it took me about 8 months or so after Ani was born. And I had one client that building this little business in the nooks and crannies, the nights, the weekends. When I had time, I was just building the Squarespace website and like creating an offer. And I took a course. I was just like trying to figure out how to do this
And
thing.
what was this thing that you knew then you needed to do? Because I know what you do now, but was it that? You already knew you wanted to coach? Was that it?
It was speaking, coaching, writing. It was this podcasting. It was telling this story, and doing it, bigger, better, just try it. Like,
so you started with one client. This is like Jerry Maguire. All right.
One client. I mean, she said yes. It was the worst sales. I mean, she like asked if she could hire me. And I said, you want to work with me?
Right.
Okay. I was just like, hold on, let me open my Word doc to find out what my prices are. Like, it was just awkward. So awkward. Right. And she was so, Melissa, I love you so much. I will be forever grateful for you because that was a catalyst to change so many things.
What year was that?
That was 2014. And so I gave my notice. It was April 22nd of 2014. And by May 16th, it was my last day in my corporate job, which I'd had for a decade. My only job, my only career. And I walked out of there with 4 clients now at this point. And I was making more money in a month with my 4 clients than I was in my corporate job. And I just thought, well, man, I'm going to work. I mean, I really only had like maybe 12 to 15 hours a week, 20 max, which would be like every night, to work because I was home full time with our baby. She was 8 months old. And so I would hustle on nap time. And I remember, literally I'd have the monitor and I'd be like sitting here coaching and I'd be like looking at it. And I remember there are times I'd have to, and this is just like hilarious and awful all at once, but there were times, she's a baby, like they're not like a perfect little egg timer. And I would have to say to my client, can you just hold on 1 second? I just need to just do something really quick. Okay. And I would get the iPad and I would put Peppa Pig on it. I would go give it to her in her crib and be like, okay, baby, you're fine, and, oh, you dropped your pacifier. Here you go. And I would get back and I would finish the session and then I would like be sweating and I would sprint in there and yay, mommy's here. Let's go, and it's like, you do what you got to do. And here we are, how many years later, 5.5 years later.
Amber, how do we I feel like I need to take a moment to just even let the power of your words just have room to be digested by everyone. I mean, everyone who's listening, myself included, is just sitting here right now thinking how brave, how fierce, how giving, how generous. You said so many things that were like one mic drop after another. Hurt people. I didn't want to be one of those people. Thinking back to you at 5 years old and you're like, it's one thing, the abuse, but actually going through it and standing up to testify at that age, that in of itself, you're like, how the hell did that go down? Like, it hurts me to the core. And everybody knows what I'm about to say. It doesn't even need to be said because it's so obvious, but I just can't not say this when you're sitting in front of another human being who's being so unabashedly honest and telling you something that's so purely traumatizing. It's like, I can't not say the words that everybody's thinking right now, which is, being a parent. I have 3 little girls and you totally are dialed in to how much you appreciate and are in awe of your child. And that's why you welled up. And just to think of someone coming along and robbing you of your innocence and putting such toxicity and evil into your path, that it is just so cruel and so awful. And it just takes everything in me to not want to jump out of my skin. And while that's true, to then think of you just becoming this beacon, this lighthouse, this fireball of magnetism is like, it's truly Herculean, to reconcile that those are 2 true things, that you experience that and then made this choice and that this became your path. And I'm just in awe. I'm just completely blown away. It's so clear that this is your work. It's so obvious. It's so clear why your show is doing so well. It's so clear why people love your events, because it's you. You are a constant reminder of what is possible when we have courage. And you're amazing. I want to dissect that a little bit because it is everything. And so many of us have been through different kinds of trauma. Some are big T trauma. I would say that's what yours is. Some are little T trauma, but it's still really painful. And sometimes we don't have that fervor. And we've been through this or we know people in our life who get stuck there. And you so did not get stuck in that. And no one would have blamed you if that's the story you told, and what came after it was. And so I've been in bed for the rest of my life with the covers pulled over my eyes. Like, everyone would be like, of course, like nobody would be blaming you. Like, so what have you seen in the work that you've done that gets us stuck in our pain? And what is it that you've seen that makes it possible for people to move through something so painful and find this incredible life force and light?
Well, just thank you for your words, Kathy. I really appreciate all of
I
your
mean, come on.
affirmation. Yeah, just thank
I
you,
mean,
though.
I'm just a reflection.
Thank you. You know, one of my favorite things to say is, if the dream is in you, it's for you. And I believe that every person that is here, whether they can consciously connect to it or not, somewhere in their lifetime, there's some sort of something, there's some sort of desire, there's some sort of dream, there's some sort of like clarity. And mine just so happened to, I mean, there's no way to know, you know, if it, the chicken or the egg, I don't know. But I didn't come in this body, in this life, without some sort of lightning bolts around me. I just know that. I just know it, you know, and like thinking back and looking back and hearing stories my parents talk about and remembering, you know, for some reason, I just have a super vivid memory of childhood. And I remember moments, you know, and like literally from my actual vantage point of being small and like seeing. So I've always seen that in people. I've always seen the heart in people. And I think my mom has like this amazing empathetic ability and a way to express through words what heartbeats feel like. And she's just always been there. My mom also came in and has had an incredibly traumatic childhood. And some of it you might say was like little T, but no, like it's all relative. So for anyone listening to this, you know, let's not compare stories. Let's just be in our own and acknowledge, you know, that our experience is valid and it matters. And whatever happened or went down, you know, like I want to be the person in your world that says, I believe you. And what you're experiencing matters, and how you're trying to navigate through it matters. And the fact that you're listening to this podcast tells me that you are committed to your own rise. And so going back to this dreaming component, you know, let's just look at what it is, you know, like what was the dream, what anywhere along the path. And I have this fantasy, and I think I really just need to do it because I've talked about this a few times now with people that in my friendships and whatnot. This is the first time I'm saying it out loud, but I have this fantasy of like wanting to go to like a grocery store and stand outside or like a mall or something and just be like, can you tell me what your dream is? Like all these random people, like just interview them and be like, can we talk about your dream? And I know that they would think I was crazy and they'd be like, stop trying to sell me stuff. But I just want to talk to people about their dreams. And that's really what I do in my work. I go to live events and I remind people of their dreams, and I bring them through visualization experiences, emotional opportunities to connect to their deepest truth and what I believe is their reason for being here, besides just to like love and be a great person and all that. But like, we all have a unique curriculum, and that is where we can find it. But we have to go through the process of validating our own experiences, of identifying it as being worthy, which is our biggest challenge. And certainly we understand why, and we can get into the mechanics of that. But I just am obsessed with people's dreams. I want to know what they are. And I'll just tell you this one little piece of a story I think that could really highlight this. It's when I speak at events, often I will ask the people in the audience to just, you know, someone want to be really brave right now and just share your dream. Just raise your hand, stand up, like tell us what your dream is. Like, what is your big vision? What are you wanting more of for your life? And, you know, you have brave people that do, and they get up and they say, I want to write this book about whatever, you know, alpacas or something, you know, I want to be a chiropractor. You know, you have people that stand up and talk about what their particular dream is. And then I ask this question of the audience. Now, you just saw these brave people stand up and tell us what their dreams are in real life, in front of us in real time. Did any of you feel triggered by their dream, by their sharing of their dream? And everyone goes, whoa, no, not at all. I felt in celebration of their dream. But we have this story, Kathy, that there's not enough to go around, that, you know, your dream is in competition with
So
my
true.
dream, et cetera, et cetera. And so this is like this really important exercise to show us all that, you know, even you and I, we both are podcast hosts, but we have different dreams for our lives and for our impact.
So good and so cool, because you're right. You could feel being in that room and just being like, sing it, sister. Glad you want to write a book. And you realize in that moment, like, how much room there is in the world for you. Let's go back to, because you have so many great things to share. I just want to ask you that question again. What do you think gets us stuck in the pain, and how do we go through it?
Yeah. What gets us stuck in the pain is our worrying about what other people are going to think. Disappointing people, letting people down, hurting people. It's like we have this over functioning when it relates to the people that we love. And that's what stops us. It's like we use them as an excuse. I think the other side to this, which is actually very connected, is we self-identify as victims. So we take our trauma and we continue. So I could absolutely have done that, but I have never referred to myself as a victim of childhood sexual abuse. Never have those words been mine. It's always, I'm a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, and the distinction really matters.
Why is that? What is it about being a victim that actually hurts us?
Yeah, because we are self-identifying as being someone who wrong was done to, and ultimately victimhood is a dead end. There's really no getting out of victimhood. You know, when we think of it just like that, we just stay there. And then we become martyrs. And then it's just like, you know, think of it. Everybody on this podcast listening right now, you know, there's a victim in your life. There's someone who identifies as a victim. And what happens, right? No progress is made. Their individual curriculum does not get followed through on. Their creations, their magic, the things they're here for, it doesn't happen.
Wow. It's so clear.
So clear. And it, you know, I think the part that I have to really catch myself on is because I see the possibilities in people, and I have my whole life. And it breaks my heart when people don't get it, you know, but again, I have to have radical compassion for people being where they are. And, you know, at the end of the day, even my uncle, I have radical forgiveness for him, because ultimately a lot of stuff must have happened to him on his life journey that would have led him to doing to me what he did. And I really see that. And I really get that. And that's taken years and years to work through.
Oh my gosh, boy.
But what am I doing for him or for me or for anyone else if I continue to hold him in bondage to an event in the past, which I don't know this for certain, but I would venture that he regrets it. I just, you know, and maybe I'm saying that to make myself feel better. Either way, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, but it's how I experience it that actually matters, because that's what's going to affect all of the people in my life in present day and what I'm here to actually do and talk about.
It's absolutely incredible the way that you say those things, and then not just saying it, but that you've actually integrated those kinds of ideas, and what that must have been like to work through that is just, it's humongous. So many people, one of the biggest things that comes up that I see is, who am I to do this? I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
You know, who am I to charge for this? Who am I to put it out there? I'm not the best at it. It's not ready. I don't have anything to share. I'm not the one and only objective, absolute authority. That's never stopped you.
Well, I mean, that's fair, but
how do you help people through that?
Yeah. You know, I think that what I've learned on my journey is just, you know, I can either, and I think athletics actually had a huge part in this part of my development, because, you know, at the end of the day, I'm not the best soccer player in the world. And I wasn't a starter in every game of my college career. And I had major injuries I had to overcome and knee surgeries and all these things. And as a result of that, it really impacted my ability to perform on the field. And I remember my senior season, I had basically a complication from surgery. I had a torn VMO muscle, which is a muscle that's responsible for like your explosive speed. And I wasn't really like a super fast player. That's never my strength, but vision, anticipating, physical presence, all those things, leadership on the field were my strengths. And I knew how to play to my strengths. So I was always someone quick to like, just go to, okay, what am I the best at? What can I control? Where can I operate from? I can either get frustrated that I now have a torn VMO muscle and I'm like limping around the track on my fitness test and I'm in so much friggin' pain, or I can just do my fitness test and finish it because I'm the captain of this team and my team needs me to be a leader right now. So I can have that intrinsic motivation and I can push through the outside hard stuff like I have a million times before in my life, or I can just be a victim of this and sit on the sidelines, which nobody would say anything about. But what lesson am I actually getting from that? And what kind of leader and example am I actually being for my teammates? And so I've held myself to that standard. And it's like the only way I really know how to operate, because I just have such a big vision for what's possible for us as people, as humans, and so I want to just say to people, like, I so have all of the empathy and love for you and compassion in the world that's an easy storyline to use as an excuse. But every single person who's ever done anything for the first time has felt the exact same way. And so I'm interested in, okay, where are the zones of opportunity for you? And how can we try to make this a little bit easier? And how can we be more gentle with ourselves instead of so darn hard on ourselves? How can we how can we make this easier? And I don't, that has served me, in a tremendous way. And it certainly served my clients as well.
When you made that leap from sports sports and PR and marketing, after you were already a great athlete and you did the sports and you were so good at it, and then here you come, like, I'm actually going to go do something so different. I mean, seemingly different. There's so much of it that really is a parallel. But it was really a big jump.
Yeah.
Did you come through any imposter syndrome? Like, who am I to be a coach, and why would somebody pay me? And I'm an athlete, but I don't have a PhD in psychology. And like, who am I to help? Which is like such a joke, because you've now, thank God, been able to help so many people. But how did you have the courage to pivot? How did you have the courage to walk into something so unfamiliar?
I think that there's so much of me that just didn't even know enough to be scared in some ways. So thank goodness for that. The second piece was I had this amazing catalyst of my child. So it was like, I left my corporate career, and I can be completely honest about this. Failure was never an option. So when it comes to my biggest dreams, so like becoming a Division I athlete, becoming a mom, launching this business, writing the book that I'm like, literally, I am not doing well. I'm having all that imposter syndrome stuff right now. All of that. Failure is just not even an option. I don't even believe in it. It's not even a thing. It's just feedback, so everything I took over,
it's feedback. Yeah.
Just feedback, And so I just went to this place of, oh my goodness, can you imagine right now? I've been working 60, 70, 80 hours a week for the last 10 years. I now, for the first time in my life, because literally I was a Division I athlete who then went to go work in Division I athletics. Since I was 10 years old, I have not taken any time off. I was in school, then I was playing on 3 teams a year. Like, my whole life was full tilt sprint, get the goals, do the things. Now I get to work. Only when my child's taking a nap or at nighttime or weekends. Like, I know that this sounds like masochistic, but to me, I felt like I was going on vacation.
Yeah.
Because I've overfunctioned my whole damn life.
Yes, you did. Yes.
And so now I'm like, oh, I get to like take a minute and not work 24 hours a day. Now, you and I both know that's not true, because our brains never stop. When we work in this business, we're always, especially when your life is your content. But failure was just not even on the table. And again, you guys, I didn't figure out this "if the dream is in you, it's for you" thing until just recently, like the last like year and a half of clarity. But I believe that so deeply now. And so I just use that as my little code to unlock myself when I get stuck and I get frustrated. And it's like, it will work itself out. Like it always does. And I've had to really surrender into this radical trust space. And that's really where I live my life now.
I love that. And I love the failure is feedback. It's feedback. You're getting answers. You're just getting answers of it's like that answer.
But Kathy, we make everything mean something about our worth. And that's the problem. We make our career, we make our partner's happiness, we make our child's success in the classroom or on the sports field, or the weight on the number on the scale, or the client, defaulting on a payment or saying no. We make that mean something about our worth. And so what if, and I'm still working on this. So like, let's just put that on the table. I do not have this nailed, but this is my conscious awareness is here and I'm working on this all the time. What if all of these situations in my life literally had nothing to do with my worthiness? What if my worth was never in question and it hasn't been from the day that I was born? And now I actually have to operate from a completely different equation of not working for worthy, rather working for fulfillment, for contribution, for joy, for love. Like,
that's a game changer.
Whoa. Yeah. It changes everything.
Yeah. It changes everything. I want to break this down into two of the biggest things that come up for our audience. It was interesting to me because I've been since the beginning, like, oh, how do I help people build their dream job? Yeah. And I come to find out a big majority of the world doesn't actually know what they want to do.
That's true.
They don't know what their dreams are.
Yeah.
And I'm curious what your feedback is, how you help people to clarity on what they're here to do.
So one of the places that we can start, which is, not my preference, but it doesn't matter. We start wherever we are, is looking at what's not working. What do I not want? Right? I knew that I did not want to be going to work every day wearing khakis and polo shirts and sitting in the meetings that I wasn't allowed to say what I actually felt, and packing my little lunch in my Lululemon bag and jamming it into the community fridge. Like, I was good. Yeah. I was complete with that.
So had enough. How did I feel? Yeah.
We're good. So then, okay. So then what's the alternative, right? Like, so what do you want to do? The ideal day exercise is such an awesome exercise to do. To sit down and go, what would my ideal day look like? From the minute I wake up, my eyes open, how does that day roll out? And I did that back in those days because I was also confused. And I felt all of that unworthy invalidation thing. Like, who am I? I'm like this sports person. How am I going to go be a coach for people? Like, there's no credibility there. Like, give me a break. I taught sport marketing. How is that going to relate to brand coaching and helping entrepreneurs with their businesses? So I had to like walk over those bridges and get to the place of deeper clarity on what it was I really wanted to do. I think our desire to have like our whole life purpose completely mapped out on the page with like a beautiful design and mind map and all that is also not actually helping us. And it's like, can we just take one baby step at a time? So when I launched my business, I was also designing people's websites, creating logos, helping them write copy. I was just doing what I had skills in.
Just inching your way closer and closer to sort of developing this awareness of what really is the thing. And then
I'm still working that out. Like, I feel like I'm still massaging what is my elevator
because you're
pitch?
Hopefully going to be on the planet for 100 years or more.
That's right.
And you got a lot of massaging.
There's so many more iterations to happen here. I'm not a static one-dimensional person.
Exactly. So now let's move into part 2. How do we build effective businesses? What is at the heart of that? How are you helping people to grow their platform and their brand? What is it that makes it work? How do we do it?
Yeah. It's such a multi-dimensional question.
Yes, it is.
But it really is. And I'm a firm believer that there's no formula or one right way to do it. But what's most important is that we are open to learning how to trust ourselves, that we're picking ourselves for our own team in the process, that we stop abandoning ourselves along the way. because that's just going to come back around and bite you in the buns. And here's the thing. If you really, really dislike doing X in your business, don't make that one of your products, services, and offerings. If you like kind of don't love, so like doing website design, not my most favorite thing in the world, but I liked parts of it and I liked helping them. And I was the best person, most qualified person for these clients to do it. Like they didn't know how. They were completely technologically inept and they needed that. And I knew how to do it. And so I sold it to them until I was able to hire someone else to do it and then able to just like not have that be part of my services at all.
Yep.
So I think building a successful business it starts with you trusting you enough to try things out. The other piece is it's all about building relationships. And so any successful business or personal brand or influencer or anybody out there that you see, the way that they have become the most successful is by building relationships. And I'll give you one quick exercise to do in your journals. Think about right now, who are the most influential businesses and brands in your life?
Mm-hmm.
And what value do they offer you? And what are some of their tenets, principles? How do they operate? How do they make you feel? All of those things are elements that you value that you're going to want to create in your business. And chances are, because you are you and you value those things about them, you already do that. So build those things into the way that your business supports your clients. And then the last piece I will say is that our ideal clients, and this is like a 99.9 success rate. And some people will give me flack about this, and that's totally fine. Just sign up for a program. We'll work through this together, right? Your ideal client is a former version of you.
Oh, yeah.
You know how to help them because you already did the thing that they need you to help them with.
That's right.
Very simply put. So just go back in time and ask yourself, what did I need when I was trying to launch a business? And that's what I help my clients with because I struggled mightily and needed a lot of things that nobody was offering. And I created those product services and support systems to help them.
And for those of you who don't know Amber, most of you probably do, but if you don't, she's built a 7-figure business and her husband was able to actually not be an officer. He's a police officer, right?
He was, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he was able to not work anymore because she's built such a big business and her podcast is huge, has hundreds of thousands of downloads a month. Just amazing. Just truly, truly it's working. I'm curious for people who are listening to the show right now who want to be in the coaching space. Let's talk about a few of those basics. How did you get those first clients and how did we grow then to the next frontier? Let's walk through some of the milestones.
Yeah. So the first clients, I had joined an online program. And so then I was in a community space with that program. And there were a lot of people in that community space. And this was back in the days when Facebook groups were like, really, it was like the wild, wild west back then, back in 2014. And you could promote your services and offerings, but it wasn't like I was like cold pitching my stuff. I was helping people. And so people were, these newer entrepreneurs, they weren't the techie folks. They were more of like the healer type people or the coach type people. And I just said, I would love, because I was learning, I was developing my skills. I would love to do some free brand reviews, website reviews. And I just did that for people. And I was finding that the things that I was noticing about their websites had this huge correlation to their self-concept and how they were diminishing themselves on their very own websites. And I was starting to look at these sort of consistent themes. And there was this one particular client, and I said to her, this was Melissa, I said, it's really fascinating to me that the picture on your homepage is a picture of you with your back to the viewer and you're like looking over your shoulder. And she had been just telling me about how she didn't actually like the service that she was offering in her brand. And she was like burnt out, but she couldn't figure out how to pivot. That isn't interesting. You're turning your back to your client. You're basically saying, I don't want to work with you. And that's why your business isn't working. She was like, oh my gosh, she started laughing out loud. Said, I'm in a $10,000 mastermind and nobody's ever said anything to me on that level of clarity. I just didn't even see it.
So specific. Yeah.
So specific. And so I was just saying what I saw and helping them with what my skill set was. And so I was just giving value. I was doing free coaching sessions with no expectation. I told you, she wanted to hire me, and I had to like look up my price. I didn't even know what my package was, you know? And then I just got onto that thinking, well, if I just keep helping people, then maybe they'll want to work with me. And I don't have to get into this like pitchy, persuasive,
Oh
convincing
my
people
God, I
energy.
love this.
Like,
Just
that's
be
just
generous. Just
not
show
how
up and be generous.
just show up and be generous and do your own work, you know? And I really like made sure my brand was a reflection of what I stand for.
So
and I
good.
continue to push myself to get better at that. I also hire coaches and mentors and do my own development work. And I have forever because I love it, but also because it's an integrity. If I'm going to ask you to hire me as your coach, how is it that I'm then not working with a coach myself? Like, that doesn't make sense. So yeah, that's really been
so good.
That's
so
been
good.
it.
I love that answer. It's like, just start helping people for free. Just start to get out there and be generous. That's how you start.
That's right.
So smart. I think there's a lot of people who have some feelings of conflict around, well, if I'm going to be a coach, don't I have to be specific? Like, I can coach you in your Instagram. I can coach you around your products. Like, if I'm just a generalized business coach, I feel like I don't stand out. I don't know how anyone's going to want to choose me over the other 17 million people who do this. What do you say to them?
I just say that there's only one you. And when you are brave enough to be fully you.
Oh, it's good.
In all your stuff,
yeah,
you're going to find your people. You're going to find your lobsters. Like, you're going to connect.
Yep.
And that's it. Like, it's really that simple. You connect to each other by being yourself. And you think about it, Kathy, like people that listen to your podcast, right? Like, you have a quirky personality, and those people also do. Like, right, guys? That's why you love Kathy, because she keeps it real.
You're sweet.
Yeah. And so you like working with her or connecting with her in whatever capacity, because she's real.
The second piece is, I think people get really excited. They listen to shows, they take coaching, they do their coaching work, and then they actually have to go out and have the moment where they tell people what they charge.
Oh, yeah.
They go, I'm out. I'm going back to my day job.
Yeah.
So when we go to charge, all this stuff comes up like, well, these people are going to think I'm charging too much. I don't know if I'm going to be working too hard if I charge too little. I don't know how to like just say the price and then be quiet. So I don't have any momentum. So what do we do? So where does that put you as a coach? How do you deal with that?
Yeah. So to me, it's always about a conversation of value with self, right? And when we wrap up like our value, so this is what I say to my clients all the time. Okay, so if you're going to charge $1,000 to your client, or $20,000 or $50,000, like, you are worth more than any dollar figure you are ever going to offer to a potential client. And you got to get that. Like, that's the actual work. And then the price is just the time, the really like the time, effort, and energy that goes into holding the sacred container to support the client in their transformation in relationship to how much they value that transformation as well.
That's true.
So I bring them back every single time to, stop putting a dollar figure on yourself, because that's impossible. And if we can free ourselves from that, and we can get that, which is easier said than done. I do understand that part of it. That's the deeper work that we're talking about here. It really changes things, and it makes it so much easier to just, in that case, then this is what the program actually is worth. This is what the experience price and the market value actually is. Yeah. And I'm going to focus my energy there rather than trying to do the impossible, which is give myself a price tag.
Yep. So clear. So good. Yeah. One question leading into that, before we go to that scary moment of actually doing the sale and closing it, where do you sort of stand on what we need to do before we even get there? You started out by saying, just be generous and show up. And I feel like a lot of people will write to me and say, I heard your show, and so I did the thing. And then I started telling people that I have this offer, and there's not a lot of runway where they've been sort of showing up and consistently communicating with their clients. And you come from that branding and marketing space. And I wonder, I think a lot of people like cringe. They don't really get what marketing and sales is at its core.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you come into that conversation? How do you advise people to show up before they ever have the offer?
I find that using real life examples helps when people can't get context on these things, like, cause we're too close to it. And so we're like, but what do you mean? And then we throw in like the worthiness boomerang thing, and that just makes it really confusing and overwhelming. So I like to think about bigger brands and even smaller brands, and thinking about like the brands that make an impact in your world, and looking at, when there's a sale going on, or like there's a big movie premiere. Even Disney does their due diligence and giving you a runway when a new movie's, like, we're recording this at a time that Frozen 2 is happening in like 2 days.
Yeah, heck yeah.
I mean, the countdown is on, sister, right? And like, we know, even my daughter, it's like the 22nd, she's like so excited about that. My kid doesn't even know how to tell time, but she knows when the Frozen movie's coming out.
Totally true.
Right? So pay attention to that. Like, if Disney is going to do their due diligence to create a runway and build excitement, I think we could probably do that with our own personal brands.
Yep.
And let's not just drop a launch on a Tuesday when we've never said a word about it beforehand. So I think it's a little bit about discipline, about learning the mechanics and the basics, and paying attention. Every one of my friends in the space, like, we all are like geek out. We have those folders in our email inbox where we save examples of things, like, oh, that's so good. Like, look at how they did that there. Like, I'm saving examples of things to learn how to be better at my own marketing.
I love that.
So I think that remembering that marketing is really just an opportunity for us to get into the awareness of the people that we want to help and serve. Yep. And you can use things like Facebook ads and all these, algorithms and whatnot to get like more specifically into their awareness. But I really think of this on like an energetic level. And I think about also going back to my collegiate athletics days and the microcosm of all of our campus and the students that were there. And then also knowing we had to promote to season ticket holders, alumni, groups in the community. Like, we had all these different markets to reach out to. And the most consistent way to reach out to those people and to market to them was by getting into their awareness and knowing where they were hanging out and paying attention to the trends and the themes. So if I'm going to get students, to come to one of our events, you better believe I'm like pizza, t-shirts, making it cool, like doing some social media thing. The social media started while I was in that career path.
Right.
And like really sitting down and creating enough time to think about your ideal customer, what they're doing, where they're hanging out,
what they like, what adds value to them,
what appeals to them, what are their biggest challenges, asking them, getting actual direct feedback from them. And then tweaking and adjusting fair, but remembering that there's no such thing as failing. It's all just feedback. Marketing is just testing always. Even successful marketing is just a test.
True.
And you get to continue to tweak it as you go.
I love that. You're right. Like, taking it out of the theoretical and just thinking about that example of you. I mean, Disney's a great example, but then also that example of like, okay, they want pizza. Okay. T-shirts. Yeah. Okay. So this is who I'm marketing to. And what would get them out of bed? They're college students. Maybe they don't have a ton of extra money for dinner. So we'll give them dinner too. We'll get them. So it's so smart. Okay. As we're closing out, we've already mentioned it before, but your show, your podcast.
Yeah.
Tell us like what this podcast is at its core.
Yeah. So it's called the Amber Lilyestrom Show. And I thought about, like, who are the people that I admire the most, or, brands that are doing it. And it's like, well, Oprah, Tony, Beyonce. It's like all these like one name people, I'm like, well, then I might as well just call it my name. Then I have to deal with trademark stuff, because try to take that. Amber Lilyestrom, it's like kind of, unique. And it's me really living into what my whole message is about, which is being me, like, we all have our own unique curriculum. Let's be ourselves. And so on that podcast, and I'm so excited for us to have our conversation when you're going to come on.
Thanks.
It's really about getting to the heartbeat of the person that we're talking to. And I talk to incredible authors, speakers, podcast hosts, coaches, teachers, like just incredible humans, survivors, creators, parents. And I want to know, how you got to being you, and how you've navigated the pockets of life and those moments of indecision and fear, and how you move through it. Like, I just love to get into the mindset of the people that I interview, and understand and show the listeners how the dots of their life connected to illustrate how the dreams come into being and into realization.
That's so cool. That's so cool. And you've had a few guests on that we've had on, like Sarah Blondin, James Wedmore, Laura Belgray, who's a friend of mine.
Yeah.
And you guys, if you like this show, then I think you'll love Amber's show. And you can tell just from this conversation that she's so real. And I think that's what makes you successful above all of, the smarts and how much you just really grasp. It's like, there's so many people just fronting, Amber. You know what I mean? Like, there's just so many people who are like, hey, okay, this is the moment where I tell you what a boss is. And I am a boss. And this is how and it's just like so exhausting. Yeah. And then there's like the fake vulnerable, the people who are like, oh, I'm supposed to be vulnerable, so I'm going to like tell you something about me, but it's like
curated imperfection.
So curated. Right.
Laura and I had you should link the podcast with Laura. She's hilarious.
She is hilarious.
I love her so much.
Yeah, she is hilarious. Tell us about where we can find you and your annual event also.
Yeah, so I'm at amberlilyestrom.com. The podcast, just search it on all the places and spaces. I'm on Instagram. I love Instagram. So please share this episode and tag us, and I will reshare it and just shout it out from the rooftops so that more people can hear this conversation.
Sweet.
And the Ignite Your Soul Summit. So it's April 25th and 26th, 2020. It's in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Some of you guys are like, say what now? Yes, ma'am. It's my hometown, and I am all about bringing people here because it's one of the most magical places you'll ever visit.
It's so beautiful. I've been. Gorgeous.
Yeah.
place.
And I want to support my local community. I support local charities through this event. It's really important. And I want to show this model so that you can take things back to your local communities and support your people at home.
How cool.
And to show you don't need to live in a big city to have a very successcull business. I live in the woods. I'm looking at a lake right now in New Hampshire.
I'm so jealous.
And you can do it. Like we literally live in a time-space reality where you can do it. And so come to the Ignite Your Soul Summit, be with your soul tribe, amazing speakers, expansive, just environment, really. 2 days that are going to just rock your world and take you and your level of understanding of yourself and what's next for you in your journey to a whole nother realm of possibility. And it would be my honor to get to share this experience with anyone that's listening to this that wants to come.
That's so cool. Is that your favorite thing that you do is your live event?
It's so fun. It's so fun. And I want to say this, I think this is really important because it takes a lot to do it.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It's an animal, but I also think even on an inner level, there will be moments, before that I just go, why is this my dream? It could just tear me up inside that because it's like you're exposing yourself. You have to go up on stage in front of hundreds of people and have them all staring at you.
Yeah.
And you have to
oh God. Yeah.
be smart and you have to be a thing. And so, there's so much that just emotionally goes into that. And it's not easy. But it's what I'm here for. And so I just do the work to do it. And it's my profound honor to live into it and to watch, the results and to watch the transformations that happen is, it's humbling beyond measure.
That's so extraordinary. So inspiring. Just really such a gift to get to hear from you, and you really don't phone it in. Like, you give so much of your energy, and that's really, really generous. So thank you for this. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, sister. I'm so happy to know you and be part of this today. To be continued.
Yes. Yes. Yes.